Hello, everyone. This is Roz Henderson here. Happy Saturday. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. And we're gathered here today to talk about a very important topic. All this month, we've been talking about building a mega money mindset. And it also requires that we work to be able to track money, to be able to hold on to it, to have our ideal client, and to be able to grow our finances. There are a lot of different modalities that you can use to help you transform limiting money beliefs. And I thought I'd bring my good friend, Dr. Nall, here with us today to talk about one important modality that she uses frequently with her clients to help them unblock different areas so that they can attract wealth. So we're going to talk about tapping your way to wealth. Tapping your way to wealth. Let me introduce you to Dr. Katie Nall. Hello, Dr. Nall. Thank you for being here. We appreciate that you're here.
Hello, Rosalind. It is always a pleasure to see you. We have so much fun when we're together, don't we?
We surely do. I keep learning about you, and you're just so fascinating. So fascinating. And in regards to this topic, another name for tapping, I understand, is EFT, the Emotional Freedom Technique. So if you could introduce yourself and give us a little background about EFT and how important it is in helping us grow, we would love that.
Well, Rosalind, first of all, I have to congratulate you on what a fabulous job you are doing in growing and helping other entrepreneurs. I'm just so impressed with all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
About 11 years ago, I was starting to do research on my PhD in math education, and I wanted to help students overcome the fear and anxiety about math. Now, what in the world does that have to do with entrepreneurship or sales or anything else? Stay with me just for a minute. When I was doing my research, what I found, Rosalind, was there is nothing out there to help students overcome their fear and anxiety about math. So many students were struggling because there was one class left to finish their certificate, their degree, their diploma, to be able to go out into the world to accomplish their dreams, whether it be an employee or an entrepreneur. I wanted to be able to help these students. I looked and looked and looked, couldn't find anything. So I decided to, as a mathematician, change my word problem from helping students overcome their fear and anxiety about math to just overcoming fear and anxiety in general. And that's when I accidentally, on purpose, found Nick Ortner's 10-day tapping summit. I watched all 10 days. I said, I wonder if this would help. I bought the book, I bought the DVD, and I thought, let's try it. I tried it with a bunch of students who were coming into our college at the time. And I said, hey, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. Are you game? They were all desperate, Rosalind, and would try anything. Turns out desperate clients are really good because they're open to everything. And when they tried it, they were coming back and saying, Dr. Nall, I got an A in math, and I've never had that happen before. Dr. Nall, I got 100% on this test. Dr. Nall, I've been able to graduate. That's when I realized I had something going on, and I thought, I better find out if what I'm doing is right, because I had just self-taught myself. I went back and I got certified in levels 1, 2, 3, trauma, and quantum. I actually go back into past lives, and that's for a whole nother visit we can do. But what I found is I was not doing it right, and I was actually making a lot of mistakes, and it still worked. So here's a technique that is based on traditional Chinese medicine's understanding of the 12 meridians that are flowing through our body, and how Stanford educated engineer Gary Craig found where these intersect, and how we can just tap on these particular points to release these blockages causing anxiety and fear. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, our bodies are still has the small part of in the back of our brain called the amygdala, and that's what they call the reptilian part of the brain. And that part of that brain is meant to keep us in survival mode. So if we are in our cave and we hear a tiger roar, the amygdala takes over. It stops digesting food. It stops thinking. It takes all the blood, puts it in our large muscle groups and our legs and our arms so that we can move fast and we can get out of the way. As it turns out, when we have stressors in our lives, guess what happens? The amygdala feels like it's being threatened. Boom. Same things happen. Shuts down digestion, shuts down thinking, and it's like moves all the blood to the large muscle groups, and we've got to move. What we found is that Dr. Hans Seeley in the early 1900s defined there were 3 types of stressors that were triggering our stress. One is uncertainty, one is lack of information, and one is loss of control. When you talk about sales, when you think about selling your product, there is some uncertainty. You don't know what the response is going to be. You may not feel you have all the information, and you may feel a loss of control. You can't control what the other people are doing. So those stressors are triggering your amygdala, which means that all of your blood is flowing from your brain and your stomach into your large muscle groups. That's when you need your brain the most.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So that's what tapping does. Mm-hmm.
This is, oh, boy, you have opened up a can of worms here. This is so fantastic because I believe, like, lodged somewhere subconsciously is oftentimes these limiting money beliefs, these limiting sales beliefs that I do believe triggers that anxiety, sense of uncertainty, or sense of lack of control. Anytime we have to, operate in order to keep our business alive, we have to generate money, right?
Yeah.
We have to generate customers. We have to close sales. And some of our past conditioning when we were younger may include, for instance, I know that I grew up, for instance, Katie, looking at salespeople. And I always think about the used car salesperson.
Yeah.
I've even experienced this as a young lady
Mm-hmm.
where sales were forced and where it was all about the sale. Forget Rosalind. It was all about making that sale.
Right.
And it was so uncomfortable to be in front of a salesperson that way. But can you imagine, here you are trying to run your business and you have the best of intentions for your customers and your clients. You feel that you're selling a wonderful service or product, and yet somewhere operating back in the recesses of your mind is that belief is still lodged in there that salespeople are crooks,
Mm.
for instance. And I truly believe that unprocessed energy can give rise to what you just mentioned. It can give rise to the stress when you have to try to close a sale with a potential client. It causes that lack of certainty. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we act in accordance to that limited belief. We may not be aware of it, but we might
Mm-hmm.
even sabotage, or we might start stuttering when we say how much we're going to charge. We start stuttering. We look so insecure before a customer, potential customer. So what you're saying is right on. And it also relates, I believe, to wealth building and our
Mm.
attitude towards money. For some of us, I would think money is a dangerous topic,
It's the
right?
root. It's
Depending
the
on how
root,
you grew
root
up.
of all evil, right?
There are a lot of, and maybe you can help me name some
Oh yeah.
limiting money beliefs that people have and still are after 10, 15, 20, 25 years, are still embracing. They may not even be aware of it.
Oh yeah.
But I know I grew up Catholic.
Me
I
too.
grew up Catholic, and everything was about a vow of poverty.
Yeah.
If you were poor, that meant that you were spiritual. You're going to heaven. And that rich people, there was something evil about rich people, selfish
The
about
eye
rich.
of the needle. A rich
Yeah,
person, yeah, the only way they get through heaven is like going through the eye of a needle. Yeah.
those kinds of concepts. I was steeped in those concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Or perhaps we saw some things in our childhood. I know that when I was growing up, I, as a little girl, watched mom and dad go through some financial struggles.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
temporary. They were temporary, but I judged.
Oh, yeah.
My parents, oh my goodness, they can't take care of us.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? The fruit in my adult life, I bore some fruit from that because
Mm-hmm.
that was always a concern of mine
Oh, yeah.
in regards to raising my boys. Can I cover? Can I cover? The basics for these boys. I was constantly worried about money until I finally reconciled that concept from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what are some other money limiting money beliefs that you've come across? I'm sure you've come across that.
Well, Rosalind, you bring up a really good point. So many of these money beliefs came to us either consciously or subconsciously in our childhood. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay. And we can't afford that. Instead of how can we afford that?
yes,
Big
yes.
difference. And any negative money things, anywhere from I know I grew up in poverty. We lived on what was called Welfare Island, in one of the places we lived, and we moved a lot. So I totally get that. So as it turns out, money is imaginary, and to wrap our heads around that is huge. How we feel about money is real. And until we can get the feeling around money straightened out, we can't attract money to us. We've heard story after story of people who have won the lottery and in 2 years it's gone, right? Because their mindset is what I deserve. I know one of the things that others have heard, and I've heard too, is that you don't deserve nice things. You can't take care of nice things.
Yes.
This is too good for you. So any of those things, and I see some comments popping up. So if the audience members would start putting in some of the things that they've
Yeah,
heard, that would be
Christy,
great.
please share some money beliefs that you grew up with. She
Yeah,
says she's saying, "Oh my gosh, yes, I understand that money issue."
right.
Absolutely, and even the attitude towards women. I grew up
Ah,
believing that women don't have the head for finances.
mm-mm. And
You know,
as something I grew up with, and I struggled with in my now 47-year marriage, is that the husband knows more about money and will control the money. Now, I grew up as what I thought was a women's liver, and it took me years
wow,
to understand that my amygdala had that, because when we were growing up, I remember we had an uncle and an aunt, and they had an unusual situation back in the 60s where the aunt was a school teacher, worked full time, and the husband stayed at home and did nothing. He didn't cook, he didn't clean. He waited until she came home. She cooked and she cleaned for him. Well, that situation in and of itself was unusual, but the talk among the family about what was wrong with that situation just went through the roof. So all of those things were in the back of my brain. And until I got those kind of straightened out, and I went, oh, I'm a big girl now. I can have my own savings account. Oh, I'm a big girl now. I have my own salary. I can choose what to do with it. And now
yes,
my husband has always been very open and generous with money and things like that. But it turns out he doesn't have the sense for it that I do. And so I really kind of, made changes just in the things I did. That's all I did. But I couldn't make those changes until one, I recognized what my money things were, and then two, I dealt with them. Now, how did I deal with them? Guess how? Tapping.
happy. You are highlighting an important point because what's not brought into the light operates in the darkness. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
I have come across, and I believe it is effective. Some people believe if you can just say affirmations over and over again, that is going to clear up your money mindset. And I am of the belief you have to do two things. You have to de-weed, you have to pull up weeds, and then you can deposit seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And the seeds are affirmations. The weeds are we have to find and locate those limiting money beliefs. And yes, a methodology would definitely be tapping, or you can use some other methodology to begin to transform those limiting beliefs, because those are the rules we live by. Those limiting money beliefs. Um, this is what's affects our behavior. One of our viewers said that it's like self-sabotaging.
Oh,
It keeps
absolutely.
showing. It keeps showing up. And they mentioned you just finished co-hosting the Overcoming Self-Sabotage. But
Mm-hmm.
self-sabotage is absolutely one thing that we do when we believe that certain limiting money beliefs, then we're going to self-sabotage and do everything that we can
Yes,
to live underneath and make sure and make true that limiting money belief
that's
when
true.
we embrace it as reality. So we're essentially talking about releasing ourselves from outdated forms of reality and giving ourselves permission to say bye-bye to some of those old ways of being. And I'm going to make one more point because I don't want to get on a soapbox, Dr. Nall. But when you really look at this, it can be staggering and mind-blowing. Can you imagine living under this restrictive way of interacting with money? Some of us have lost maybe 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 over the spread of a lifetime because we've been embracing limiting money beliefs for
Yep.
15 years, 20 years, 25 years.
Keep going.
I'm being conservative here,
Yeah.
but when you really think about it, this is how it's subtly invasive, and it's very subtle, but it's powerful in our ability to attract and hold on to wealth. With that said, Dr. Nall, please show us how we can begin to transform this situation.
Okay, so Rosalind, we know that, and just a couple of side notes. One, when people think of powerful, positive thinking, one of the books they think of is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. What a lot of people don't know is that his original version of his book is deeply spiritual. They extracted all of the spiritual references for the more common version. And so and what he talks about in there is these negative kinds of ideas that we have, and how working spiritually makes a difference too. So I wanted to add that. Which money block do you want to work on? You get to pick.
Oh, beautiful. I'm spiritual if I remain poor, if I take the vow of poverty.
Ah, okay. So yeah, can I be a good person and
Be
not
rich.
and be rich? That's a great one. That's a great one because
Mhm.
we all know that people only get rich by taking advantage of others, right?
Absolutely. That's how and then they hold on to their money at all costs.
I know, at our cost,
At our,
at our cost.
amen.
Hmm.
Amen.
Hmm.
Yes,
Okay, so let's start with the one about taking a vow of poverty is the only way into heaven. Does that sound good?
that sounds excellent.
Okay. When you think about, you can remember back on your CCD days, when you think about the vow of poverty, what emotions triggered in your body?
I have mixed emotions.
Sure.
And I think the emotion, I have a desire to be holy, to be
Ah,
spiritual. And yet, as I grew up, I'm seeing something's not adding up because these nuns are taken care of. They're all going to college. They're sharing, they're sharing a car. They look like they're doing okay to me.
okay. I got it. I got it. Let's try this. So what we're going to do is tap on the side of the hand, and you can use either hand, one hand or the other, and it's the area between your little finger and your wrist. And I'll kind of describe it in case somebody's just listening and not seeing. And so on the side of the hand, we tap with one hand and say, even though.
Even though,
When I think back to those days when I remember them telling me about the vow of poverty.
when I think back to those days when We're talking about the vow of poverty,
And that's the only way into heaven.
and that's the only way into heaven.
Part of me
Part of me
wants to feel holy and go to heaven.
wants to feel holy and go to heaven,
And part of me
and part of me
wonders how the nuns have such a great lifestyle.
wonder how the nuns have such a great lifestyle.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Even though
Even though,
I know they told me that the vow of poverty is the only way to heaven.
even though I was told that the vow of poverty is the only way to heaven,
Part of me
part of me
wants to be holy and go to heaven.
wants to be holy and go to heaven.
And part of me
And part of me
wonders if the nuns are going to be able to go to heaven.
wonders if the nuns are going to be able to go to heaven.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Even though
Even though,
I remember them telling me that the vow of poverty is the only way into heaven.
although I remember that they told me that the vow of poverty is the only way to get to heaven,
Part of me
part of me
wants to go to heaven.
wants to go to heaven.
And part of me
And part of me
is confused about the nuns and their lifestyle.
is confused about the nuns and their lifestyle.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
On top of the head. Part of me wants to go to heaven.
Part of me wants to go to heaven.
Part of me worries about the nuns. Are they going to heaven?
Part of me worries about the nuns or wonders if the nuns are going to heaven.
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
Part of me wonders how the nuns are affording their lifestyle.
Part of me wonders, how are the nuns affording their lifestyle?
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
Part of me does not want the vow of poverty.
Part of me does not want the vow of poverty.
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
Part of me wants to be holy and go to heaven.
And then part of me doesn't want to take the vow of poverty.
Part of me does not want to take the vow of poverty.
And then blow all your air out.
That feels cleansing. Blowing that out, that feels very cleansing.
Yeah, that's the other point I was going to make, Rosalind, is that the positive affirmations are really good if you have room for them. But when you are full of these negative things that are just filled up, there's no room for the positive affirmations. That's why I've heard from so many people that have done positive affirmations for years and have had no results, none.
Yes.
And
yes.
so why, how can that be? And it really comes down not just to the affirmations, but all the studies show it's your belief system. How much do you believe your affirmations are true? Now, I don't know about you, but I've said to myself, I'm a multimillionaire. And in the back of my head, what it said, who the heck do you think you're kidding?
Exactly.
Have you seen your bank account lately? And so it is that belief system that you have to quiet that back part of your brain. And this is one way to quiet it. So, you can do things like, even though there's that voice in the back of my head that doesn't believe I'm a multimillionaire, I believe I'm a multimillionaire. And so quieting that voice in the back of the head, that's a really good way to find those saboteurs, those many saboteurs. Unfortunately, frequently, we cannot find those money saboteurs on our own. And the reason why is because we don't ask ourselves the questions that need to be asked. I'll give you an example. One day I decided I was going to really work on something that had plagued my family for years and it was a disaster. And I decided, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to get this straight. So I decided I was going to tap on my intense hatred of housework. I spent literally, Rosalind, all day on the couch tapping because I wanted to get to the root. Why do I hate housework? I mean, I know other people don't like housework, but I hated housework. I mean, if somebody would come over, I would like pretend to dust, or I'd pull the vacuum in the middle of the living room and say, "Oh, I was just getting ready to clean. I'm so glad you're here. Let's sit and talk." I couldn't quite, I didn't know why I had such this intense nature. Because I was doing it by myself and not with a practitioner, it
Mm,
did
mm,
take me
mhm.
all day. And what I finally found out is that when I was growing up, we moved a lot. Attended 12 different schools in 5 different states, and we never moved in the summer. It was always, we were actually avoiding bill collectors, is what we were doing.
Wow.
Um, uh,
Wow.
and in the process, as the oldest child, whenever we moved, it was my responsibility to clean wherever we were living. Now, when I cleaned or I organized the siblings and said, okay, we're cleaning up, I never got paid because my mother had to have the deposit back so we could go to the next place, which was never as clean as what I had done. And so,
Wow.
right? And so that makes total sense right now. But that whole day, it took me forever to get to to ask the correct questions. And that's where working with a practitioner can make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. I'm all for coaching and practitioners because, when you're in a situation, and a team can be two people or more, but I believe when you're in a team situation that, we're blindsided. We're
Oh, yeah.
blindsided. We can't see all 360 around us. And you need, like you said, constructed questions, and
Mm-hmm.
you need a discernment of someone who has wisdom to be able to point out things that otherwise you can't see, and you have years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're so modest. You didn't even mention your TED talk, but I mean, you have this so much a vast array of experiences that look, we just can't. We don't. We just don't have access to. Can I? I want to ask you one additional question
Sure.
before we go. When we tap different meridian points, do those meridian points represent, as in I don't, as in the chakra, for instance, the chakras?
Mm-hmm.
Does it represent emotions, or is it just
Well,
meridian points?
they aren't random. They are very specific, and what they
Okay.
are is they are tied to different body parts. So the top of your head is tied to your liver, under your eye is tied to your stomach, and so they're meridians that run to different parts in your body. Now, your liver is where you store your anger. And yeah, so you can see that the black under my eyes, that's my liver. I was born with black under my eyes. And so it was handed down to me through, and here's something that will blow your mind. So when my grandmother was pregnant with my mother as a fetus was generating her eggs, right? So I was there in my grandmother in there. So everything my grandmother was going through during her pregnancy, my DNA experienced. Then when my mother was born, her entire life, all her DNA was in my egg. So when I was born with eyes
Mm.
under. So how could a child be born angry, right? And then when I understand my parents' life and my grandparents' life, I was like, oh, I understand. Now, the darkness under my eyes has decreased by different things that I've done, working on helping the health of my liver. But yeah, they're all the points are tied to different. Um, yeah, this is your spleen, I believe. Under your arm is your spleen, and so they're all tied to different meridian points. I think this is it's called the three warmer. So they're all traditional Chinese medicine points, which are tied to your organs, which are tied to your emotions.
Oh my goodness, that is quite interesting. And this is a different topic altogether because when we're talking about
Oh, I can't hear you. I hope that you're not frozen. So, in case you are, I'm just going to keep talking about it. The reason why I know a little bit more about the organs and the meridians is because I'm also studying to become a Qigong instructor. I hope I'm not talking over you. I can't tell. I can see that the live timing, the clock is going, but you appear to be frozen. I would love for anyone to contact me as you have questions. I can be reached at knowledgecompany.com. That's NALLEDGECO.com. You can always email me at hello@drnall.com. That's HELLO at DRNALL.com. I do offer tapping sessions. I've been doing Zoom tapping sessions way before COVID. I have clients all over the world that I work with to help them dissolve their waffles, dissolve their worries, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, and stress. Love to help you. I'd love to talk to you and find out how I can help you get past your money blocks. And we all have money blocks. Everybody has money blocks. Sometimes the money blocks is, I don't deserve the money, so I'll give it away. There you are. We're back.
I just love you. Technical problems, but we're back. I was
Yeah.
just going to make the last point. Thank you for taking that over,
Sure.
Dr. Nall. Is that you're bringing up the topic, which is dear to my heart, epigenetics.
Mm.
I don't know if that's a familiar term, but when you talk about generational wealth, sometimes obviously I do believe that my great, 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 great ancestor lives in me,
Yes,
in
they
my
do.
DNA, and has handed down attitudes towards money, wealth, and all
Yep.
that. So we're not just dealing with
Oh, you froze on me again, but you're right. In epigenetics, we are not just dealing with what we can remember and what we can receive. That's why when we do the tapping on the quantum tapping, and we go back in lives. I don't know if I told you the story about the chiropractor. Did I tell you this? So I had a chiropractor client. So chiropractors, they're taking care of their backs, right? But the chiropractor walked in and he was holding his back like this. And I'm like, okay. And he said, I'm having problem finishing my reports. Now he had over 100 reports sitting on his desk that needed to be finished. And he didn't get paid until each report was filed. And he had to write up. So we started off with how difficult it was for him to write in fifth grade. He remembered very specifically a fifth grade English teacher and what a difficult time that teacher gave them, and how the teacher always told him he was stupid, and just we went on and on and on. Well, Rosalind, we started tapping on that, and guess what? We got nowhere. His emotional, there was no change. You know how I always ask between 0 and 10? I didn't do it for this one because it's a little different, but I usually ask between 0 and 10. Well, there was no increase, but there was no decrease. It was just staying the same. And I was like, okay, there's something else going on. So I just happened to ask. I said, I noticed you're holding your back. I said, so what's going on with your back? He said, I don't know. I've got this sharp pain in my back. And I'm like, okay, well, let's tap on that, shall we? And so we tapped on that. And I said, and as we tapped on that, what he recalled, okay, this is going to sound so different, but stay with me for a minute. What he recalled was being a Roman gladiator and being stabbed in the back and dying. As we tapped it out and it went down, he said, okay, I think I can write my reports yet. And I was like, okay. So I checked in with him about a week later and I said, so how are you doing? Did you make any progress in your reports? He said, I finished them in 3 days. And I checked in with him just a couple of weeks ago. He has been able to finish his reports on a timely basis every day now.
That is mind-boggling.
He's not the only one. I've had many clients that I've been able to work with. I've had the honor and the pleasure to be able to work with, to find out, there's these long-standing issues that we can't find the source for. Why do we feel this way? What's going on? And it can be, as you mentioned, epigenetics. It's something that's coming down from someplace, and it's still with us.
Well, and do you know that's another topic? You're coming to visit us a lot in 2021, right, Dr. Nall? So, Dr. Nall, if we want to get in contact with you, because as you mentioned, the best is to have a practitioner walk you through EFT as opposed to
Mhm.
trying to do it yourself. I mean,
Mhm.
that's good, but better is to be in your hands. How can we get in contact with you?
Well, I did mention it earlier, so I'm going to repeat it. But I
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
No, it's okay. I appreciate the opportunity. So my email is hello@drnall.com. So it's HELLO at DRNALL.com. They can also reach out and my website. It's knowledgecompany.com. It's spelled NALLEDGECO.com. Knowledgecompany.com.
Wonderful. I think it's worth investigating this technique if you have been struggling with money issues and you find that you're having difficulty generating revenues to keep the roof over your head and you've
Right.
tried everything under the sun, then it's time to try something new.
Yeah. And
And
this is new.
and it's for you. It might be new for because, but it's been around for an awful long time. Very research practice, and it's time for you to do something new so that 2021 can look different from 2020. So, Dr. Nall, again, you're always such a blessing. It's always great. I always learn something new in interviewing you. I grow. And that's the beauty of interviewing you. Do you have any final thoughts that you might want to share with
Well,
the audience?
yeah, I want to applaud your audience members for taking the time to spend this time with us and encourage them to follow you. That you are doing amazing things and are growing entrepreneurs and helping them go to their next step. So I applaud the audience and thank them for watching, and I encourage them to follow you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Nall. Love you to pieces. Until next time, everyone, enjoy your Saturday. Take care. Bye bye for now.